We are here to begin just kick off the evening with 3 alumni who were part of the early years, transition years, and on behalf of the planning committee, welcome to the Hall of Fame event. I'm Chris Caldwell, class of '84, and I'm delighted to introduce our speakers, our first speakers here. I have John A. Davis. Katrina Singer Litchfield, class of '81, and Barb Riazzi, class of '82. So I'd like to just give brief introductory remarks before they take the stage. So John A. Davis is in the class of 1973 and swam for Coach Sloan. Growing up in Mansfield, John is a lifelong friend of Jim's and is the connecting thread between Jim Steen, Mansfield, and Kenyon. Following a career in academia and consulting, John taught at Harvard Business School for over 20 years. Katrina Singer Litchfield is in the class of 1981. She changed the trajectory of the women's team from conference-level aspirations to national-level ambitions. Katrina was Kenyon's first woman All-American and set the standard for generations of ladies to come. And Barb Riazzi is in the class of 1982. She was a leader on the team as a captain for 2 years, and she was a dual sport athlete as both a swimmer and diver. And one very important legacy that remains today is that Barb is the originator of the cheer, "Stop, Look, and Listen." So it's my pleasure to introduce them and let them take the stage.
Okay, ladies and lords. Not owls. Where did that come from? Okay, I'm not going to get trapped in that one. First of all, congratulations to the most recent inductees into our Hall of Fame. Great accomplishments, great inspiration. It's an honor and a privilege to be here to lead off this celebration of a great man, good friend, but also of our great team and tradition. Let me say that it was a blast and an honor to be in the water with my old friends and with you all this morning. You are impressive. My class of '73 teammates were honored to come in dead last in this morning's events. We huddled, my teammates, we huddled after the meet and came to the conclusion that probably our 50-year-long taper was just a little too long. We don't know exactly how long it should be, but the rest of you may want to learn from our experience, or not. Now, as you've heard, I have a special vantage point to be able to share thoughts with you. First of all, before I get to Jim, my whole academic career has focused on understanding how some things survive and succeed for a long, long time. That's been the focus. Institutions like this one, companies, families, teams, sports teams, traditions like this one. I wonder where that came from. I can tell you based on all of that thinking over 40 plus years, that we are not normal. Things, in general, usually don't survive very long, especially sports dynasties. And things that do survive and succeed have some very clear common characteristics that I think you'll understand. First of all, they're nourished and pretty driven by the pride that they have in the group and what the group does, especially in challenging times. Not when times are easy. It's when times are really challenging that pride is built. But also effort, sacrifice, pretty consistent effort, by the way. Adequate resources, like this great new facility that I'm so just continuously impressed by. Virtually consistent, common, just persistent innovation and great leadership. Sometimes we get great leaders like Jim Steen, who transformed us, got us to see our new potential, and then expertly guided us to get there. And for those of you who had the great pleasure of swimming under his expert guidance, you would say it was definitely a physical experience, but also social and spiritual. And a lot of that was guided by Jim's inspirational, although I've got to say, you might agree, somewhat cryptic sayings like the ones that have surrounded us on campus. I got to know Jim, we're both from Mansfield, as you learned, when I was at Kenyon. He coached me over Christmas break. Quickly, Jim has a point of view. Would you agree with that? I mean, he generally has a point of view, and he's generally right about his point of view. But he quickly pointed out changes in my stroke. I was a distance swimmer. He helped me a lot. And then he would spend hours with me, asking me what I wanted to achieve, more importantly, what I was willing to do to get there. In his early 20s, Jim Steen was a natural coach. Being around Jim, I like to say, was like holding on to a low voltage wire and feeling the current pulse through your body. It was slightly uncomfortable, but I wanted more of it. We became friends. When Dick Sloan left Kenyon in 1976, I recommended Jim to Dean Tom Edwards. This is definitely, without question, my most important contribution to this team. Jim thoroughly impressed Tom Edwards and others. And fortunately for Kenyon, he got the job. At this point, recognize Jim was relatively untested as a coach of a serious university, college level team. But he was ready for this challenge. Now, in the summer of 1976, personally, we backpacked and hitchhiked through Europe together for weeks. Jim, I promise this will be G-rated. Okay. Now, I was skeptical that hitchhiking in Europe was going to work with a guy that towered over me, with these little European cars that we had to ride in. But cars would actually veer off the road and even turn around to pick him up along with me. During our trip, we visited swim coaches, of course. Remember Tony Ulrich? We had lots of time to kill to talk about swimming and life and eat cheese and drink Côte de Rhône on the side of country roads. And for me to hear during this entire trip how great Marcy was. They were dating at this time, and it was like, Marcy, 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 Marcy. Okay, enough with Marcy. And then we walked the entire length of Luxembourg, all of Luxembourg, all of it. All of it. You don't want to do that. And that wasn't part of our plan, by the way. And then we ended up in Verdun, France, famous touristic place, of course, and spent the coldest night of my life outside the Verdun train station, huddled with this guy, shivering until we caught the morning train to Paris. Also not part of our plan, but you learn a lot traveling with the person. What I learned at that point, not surprisingly, Jim loves coaching, and Marcy, and developing people. He never stops talking about the things he's thinking about. He captivates people quickly. He's good at dealing with uncertainty. This guy was made for Kenyon Swimming. Me, I was someone who was transformed by being part of this team and this tradition. I was a mediocre high school swimmer. Jim would tell you that I was much worse than that. So it was an honor for me to make this team, to swim with others I considered so much better than me, and to experience the pride of working and winning with my teammates. Now, when I entered the team, we'd lost Larry Whitner to graduation, but we had giants on our team. We had placed second in nationals the season before. Second. Giants like Bill Kohler, Doug Neff, Bill Wallace. And there was great talent in the incoming class I was in. Jim Loomis, Jim Lucas, Dave Cannon, later Charlie Welker, and also Rich James. And then swimmers like Norm Schmidt, who helped me so much. This experience changed me. I was an All-American more than a few times. It made me into a different person, more importantly, and allowed me to do more in my life than I would have if I hadn't experienced what we've experienced. I became fixated on the excitement of doing things, going beyond normal expectations, and trying to relive the pride that I felt here by doing things that you didn't know that you could do, but still believed you could do them. And I think this, for me, and we're going to hear a lot about this tonight, this is the message of Kenyon Swimming. Now, nothing of great value happens without great leaders. And we at Kenyon Swimming, ladies and lords, have been blessed by really good leaders, good coaches. But in my view, no one has articulated the message of Kenyon Swimming better than the fine person we are here to honor, my friend Jim Steen. Thank you.
To enter my passcode. Wow. Is this momentous event exciting beyond words or what? Generations of accomplished competitors and professionals all gathering together to pay tribute to our epic, winningest, most coach in NCAA victories and ultimate champion in heart and spirit. It's like the thrill of championships times 500. Coach's very early years can be characterized like this: cutting edge, plus caring, plus fun, plus vision equals Tansen. And I will get to that mystery. It all began in 1974 with a group of women whose love of swimming prompted them to form a club and then seek team status for a richer experience. The charge was spearheaded by Blake Zimbolt and Mary Fountain. Not to be deterred by lack of support, solid pool time, or a coach, these swimming women demonstrated admirable persistence and innovative solutions which established the first roots of ladies' spirit. The next year, the pioneer women, including Annie Griffin, Tammy Kaplan, Jenny Luker, Barb Hotstetler, were joined by human dynamo of ginormous stature and personality, Coach James A. Steen. I think the A is for awesome. He blasted onto the scene to propel things forward and win conference championship #1 in just a year. While many coaches would have run from the hassles of establishing a team, Coach saw opportunity and had an ambitious vision of what could be developed from these humble beginnings. Advancement required extreme flexibility, and the pioneer women had it. Swimmers swam any stroke. Divers competed on a 3-meter board, even though Schaefer Pool, our humble but charming 1932 greenhouse 4-lane, I'll repeat that, 4-lane, 25-yard natatorium did not have a 3-meter diving board, surprisingly. Together, Coach and the pioneers established quite a legacy of whatever it takes. Coach provided the tools to make the seemingly impossible possible. He was only out of college a few years, but his style and wisdom far exceeded his age. From the get-go, he put his heart and soul into helping each and every individual optimize performance while building a unified team. With very modest facilities and little funds in the budget, his early focus was on sports psychology, including positive mindset, visualization, laser focus, smart goal setting, and overcoming obstacles, which was totally cutting edge for that era. Because Coach focused as much on the means as the ends, he encouraged the women to be fierce competitors, but with class and integrity. With performance reimagined, standards blended with stories of the successful pioneer women, Coach masterfully facilitated a transformation of our nascent team's nervousness and fears into excitement and belief in oneself, the process, and the magical Kenyon taper. Expectations were high, but we all felt part of something greater than ourselves. In fact, conference #2's slogan was Tansen, there ain't no stopping us now. Can you believe it? Way back then, we had no idea of the dynasty that would be created, but one man in this room did. Hello. While Coach was always moving forward fast, he also valued fun and celebrating achievements, with the most memorable one being after a conference win with notable time drops. The team was on top of the world. We sung our way back to Kenyon, And upon our arrival, we announced our victory very loudly. Coach was blasting the horn. We were hanging out the windows, screaming and yelling, "We won, we won." But seemingly Kenyon was like unimpressed. They were quiet. We could not stand this. We were not getting the response that our big victory deserved. So we decided we should do the very logical thing, at least at the time, was to drive down Middle Path to get everyone's attention. And I seem to recall some chanting involved. Middle path, middle path, middle path. But Coach proceeded to drive as if he were ignoring us. Maybe he was doing a little risk-reward analysis in his head. Possibly. Anyway, to our sheer delight, he suddenly swerved and drove right down Middle Path. Yeah, what a glorious victory lap that was. Well, Dean Edwards saw our celebration as a transgression and called Coach in to discuss it. Of course, Coach, with his gifted communication skills and early success record, managed to smooth things over, thus preserving what came to be a stupendous career. On the path, the ladies' path of early success, Coach stoked visions of the future. At the conclusion of AIAW Nationals in 1981, Coach insisted, get this, that his tired and hungry crew of 8 women stay for the award presentation to the top teams, of which we were not the top teams. Not nearly. As we waited, we tried to keep our hangry selves at bay while we listened to Coach's increasingly lamer and lamer filler comments. However, everything changed when we saw the elated winners raise their trophies. With looks exchanged, Coach's message was clear. This can be you. What a precious moment that was for me as a senior, to know the team was now targeting a much, much higher level. And I thought, Tanson, there ain't no stopping us now.
So the late 70s and early 80s were a time of many transitions for the ladies swimming program and for Coach Jim Steen. From the greenhouse to Ernst, from a conference focus to a national focus, from the AIAW to the NCAA, from coaching one team to coaching 2, there were quite a few rapid changes. And through all of it, the Steens were building their own family. Personally, at the time I finished high school, I didn't intend to swim in college. I certainly was not recruited. I was a little burned out from a rigorous high school program and figured I'd transition to a regular student. I went to the library and found a book of liberal arts colleges in Ohio. I toured Antioch, Denison, Oberlin, and Kenyon. Upon arriving in Gambier, my interviewer told me I should check in with the swim coach. So we got Mr. Steen on the phone, and he asked me for a few of my times, mainly the 500 free. He encouraged me to give the team a try if I decided to enroll, but I didn't hear from him again. When I arrived on campus freshman year, the season was about 10 weeks in the fall, which seemed just about right to me. No morning practice, no dry land program. There was also no diving team when I came, but I had some experience in age group diving, so I was able to contribute some points once in a while. The relatively low-key atmosphere suited me just fine. But Jim, as the ladies called him, was ready to transition the team in a new direction. In a small way, it started with wanting an outward reflection of the inner team. These were the days before tech suits, but Jim wasn't satisfied with any style or look available on the market. He found a private source, a seamstress who could create one-of-a-kind suits that reflected the unique team he wanted us to be. Now, these suits were at least as tough to squeeze into as any suit today, and they weren't always easy to stay in. I learned that the hard way when I dove in for the 1650 at conference championships. I was able to transition myself back to modesty, but I think I stood out more than anyone intended. Jim continued to look ahead, and conference successes started to take on a transitional feel, a means to getting to the national championship. At the time, the AIAW had governed intercollegiate athletics for women since 1971, but the NCAA was hoping to get involved and sponsored a national championship in 1982 in competition with that of the AIAW. Jim had his eye on the future and could see how things would transition, so he signed us up for Boston and the NCAA that year. He made a point to all of us throughout the year about being ready for greatness. And in December, he found the experience he felt could bring his point home. He regaled us with stories about his daughter's birth, or perhaps more accurately, Marcy's efforts. Now, many of us went on to have children, but during college, I don't think any of us had it on our minds. But Jim, on the other hand, felt he had found the perfect metaphor for being prepared. He had a lengthy speech. He had drawings. He had that unique Jim Steen, pure exuberance for how we could build on our training and let nature take its course to get ourselves to the perfect state of readiness, 10 centimeters. It would take 2 more trips to the NCAA meet for Kenyon to win its first national title and become established as a force with which to contend. But Jim saw it all coming. In the words of our classic ladies' cheer, I'm grateful that we took this time to stop in our busy lives to be together, to look at what an impact Jim Steen had on each of us, and to listen to stories about Coach. Thank you.